Hi, ladies and gentlemen, it's Peter Terry here, the Industry Street. Yeah, we're back. I've been away for a little while because of COVID, etc. But now it's time to get the stories back out there. I don't want people to think I just did this just because of COVID or whatever, because this is a thing that is quite close to my heart with what I'm seeing around. There's a thing called Wikipedia, which all the so-called bigwigs are on, but you know, the people that's got a lot of artists and that in the game, they don't really get recognised because they're not on Wikipedia, which and partly it's their fault, because that should be something that you look, even myself. But what I thought I'd do is do some interviews with a lot of people and do it my way, which is called the Industry Street. And one of the gentlemen that I've come across, I don't really know him well, but we have a like to each other because he is a part of the station I run, called injectionradio.com, and it happens to be one of the greats out there. And one of the greats happens to be Mr. Sweetboy, who he thinks he is anyway. Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to welcome the one and only Mr. Victor Anderson.
Well, my G.
Well, go on.
I'll go on with the sweetness.
Well, I don't know about the sweetness. Savoury. You don't say sweetness to me, yeah?
It's savoury.
Say sweetness to the ladies.
It's
right?
savoury.
Okay, savoury.
I'm more savoury than sweet.
How you doing, my brother? You good?
I'm good.
You're good. I mean, obviously, I don't really know you.
Well, since the lockdown.
We've really got. Yeah, you've got me into your plant-based soups and your plant-based. But we'll get into that.
You got to get into plant-based lifestyle.
We can get into that. And I'm on this big diet thing anyway. But let's talk about you. So we're going to kick it off first and say, Victor Anderson, this is all about your life. I do believe you were brought up in a place called Islington, North London. Am I right in saying that?
Yeah. Grew up in London.
So you're a North London boy?
Yeah. Moved to Caledonian Road in 1973. Mm-hmm. In 1974, discovered the Keskady Centre, and that's where I kind of took it a step further.
Well, we ain't going to take it there, because I go all the way back before the Keskady Centre.
I see.
And I start off with a situation which is called, what was schooling like?
School was all right. We had my black friends, because that was what it was. It was like, you know, we only had black friends. We didn't hang around with white people. You know what I mean? Because like,
was that on purpose, or was it
no,
just something?
It's just the way it was. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? So we had our friends. You know what I mean? I had our one token white friend. I remember him. His name was Paul. He was a teddy boy.
Okay.
Yeah. So
what was you back in the day?
I was just.
Were you a mod?
No.
So what were you?
I was just a boy who was in school, who liked music, hanged around with my friends. We used to go out and play. Them time there, you know, you'd go out and play. You know what I mean? It wasn't only staying in business.
Yeah, but you couldn't have been doing that from being a young boy, a baby boy at school. I mean, what was schooling exactly like? I mean, I know you've talked about schooling the token. Was it strict?
It was sort of strict, because if you were late or if you took a day off school, you got in trouble. You got the cane. You got the cane. We
remember the cane.
Yeah.
They don't introduce it here now, because right now it's classed as cruelty.
Yeah, abuse.
I will call the police for you.
Yeah,
I will call the authorities for you.
We had a headmaster called Mr. Pledger and a deputy headmaster called Mr. Butler. Mr. Butler used to wear a cloak like Batman. And when he used to give you the cane, he used to run a few steps, jump up, and whoosh,
wow,
lick you with the cane.
Wow. When you first got your beats, did you think, like, let me take that cane and do it to him? Or because trust me,
because the time there, it was like you had to listen to your elders, to your authority. You know what I mean? Who was, you know what I mean? Your teacher, your headmaster. You know what I mean? In them times, it's kind of like there was a bit of fear of being in trouble.
Right. So don't you think
nowadays?
So don't you think that if they was to introduce that and carried on introducing that right now, that the youngsters today wouldn't be as bad as they are?
If it would have stayed the way it was,
yes.
But it's too far gone now to go back there.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's not.
You're a father, but we're going to get into that first. But the schooling, exams, what was your exam? Did you pass any?
I did exams, but I didn't see the results.
That's so funny.
No, because what it was, we had I forgot what it was. It was a room. It was like a room where it was like a job centre in the school. So you went in there. So basically, I went into this job centre room, which was in the school itself.
Right.
A careers. I can't remember the name of it. There's a word for it. People that went to school would know back in the 70s. And then I got a job, and when I left school, I walked straight into a job.
Wow,
Just
congratulations.
just
a lot
like
of people
that.
don't get that opportunity.
Yeah,
well, we
straight
do
into-
in a sense from school. I mean, me from school, go onto a YTS that gets you into the cycle. You didn't go into no YTS or no?
No, I went straight into this place called, I forgot the name of it, but it was near Gray's Inn Road. It was an electronic company. And we did all this electronic stuff. And I learnt long words like microchronometer, which had 16 letters, things like that. When I was at school, I prided myself on learning words. If I heard a word I didn't know, I'd go to the dictionary or the encyclopedia.
So if I said to you, Constantinople,
Constantinople.
now spell it.
Oh God, I'm not going to spell
No,
words
go,
now.
no, go.
No.
Have a go.
I'm not Constantinople.
Yeah.
C-O-N.
No, but I told you to spell it.
Yeah.
Go on then. Go on.
What?
go on.
I-T.
You nearly got caught there, V. You nearly got caught there. You nearly got caught there.
That was a long-running joke back in the day. You know what I mean?
Okay, so school, it weren't really.
It was all right. I had my boys who we hang down around with, and some of them are still in touch with now. Some of them
That's
passed
good.
away.
Sadly, all right.
You know what I mean? Some of them had tragic losses. You know what I mean? And some of them are living tragic lifestyles all now.
So when you went into being, can I call you electrician?
Not an electrician. I did electronics.
Right.
It's
What's
different.
the difference?
And an electrician, I think they handle like light bulbs. They can do like if you put an electrician in someone's house,
Yes.
they could do the light fittings and all that. That wasn't what I was doing. I was doing these electronic time machines.
I get you. Radios.
Yeah,
Headphones.
things what doctors use.
Yes.
Those sort of things.
Yes. And what did you do after that? Did you decide to just stay on that? Was that your trade or?
I was into it because I was into sound system, which dealt with electronics.
There we go. It's electronics.
You know what I mean? So it was
So
like,
this is
you
the
know,
dabble
using
into
components and all that.
Yes.
You know, I used to know all the names of all the different components. I can't remember them now, but at the time, I used to know what each component was, what the number it was.
So if I brought a stereo,
Remember the components, and they had like the little body in the middle, and they had the two wires, and one on one side and one on the other side.
Yeah.
And then you stick it in and you solder it on.
Yeah.
All that type of stuff. That's what I used to do.
Oh, so you're good with your hands then, in a sense.
Yeah.
Okay.
When
And
it
then-
came to electronics. Yeah.
Right. So after that, now as you're talking about, how did the like of music get involved?
Music was there from day one. Living at mum's house, and she used to play records. You know, we lived in a road called King Henry's Walk,
Okay.
which is not far from Dalston. And my mum used to play records, and the lady upstairs used to play records. Her name was Amy Best.
Okay.
And whenever I used to go into the hallway, they lived upstairs, I lived downstairs, and I used to hear her playing records. And I'd be standing there, and I'd be just like a child. I must be about 7.
Are you the only sibling?
No, brothers and sisters. So I used to hear, but I was the only one that was doing this.
So the rest of your brothers and sisters weren't into all that?
Not that they weren't into music, but I was the one that was into music.
Right, I see.
So I'd hear Amy Best playing her music, and I'd want to go up there. I'd be like just standing in the hallway, just hearing what she was playing. You know what I mean? So I remember back in 1971, I went to Wrigley Road Market, which was like just a few minutes walk from the house, and discovered a record store. And I sold records, and I was like, having a look through the records, and then I pulled out one, and it was by Derek Morgan, Me Nah Give Up. Reggae, the first record I ever bought.
Because you were a reggae man in the beginning, though, wasn't you? Reggae was your baby in the beginning.
To me, it wasn't about reggae or what. It was just about music.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't about reggae. I didn't realize it was just reggae. I just knew it was just music.
Mm-hmm.
So my first song was Derek Morgan, Me Nah Give Up. And when you think about it, how many years later? That was 1971. We're 2022. Still haven't given up.
You haven't?
Me now,
You definitely haven't.
and that's the first record I ever bought. Me now give up.
Wow, and you actually took money out of your pocket?
Yeah,
When you bought
40p. I paid
40p.
40 pence.
Go online and get that 40p now. It's
Yeah.
never happened, would
Yeah,
it?
that same record, I looked on Discogs. I think it's worth about 40, 50 quid.
So it was your first record. Mum and dad gave you the influence. Can I say dad as well?
My mum, really.
Okay,
Single
dad,
parents.
do you know your dad?
Yeah, single parent house though.
Oh, okay, the usual
I had a
story.
stepfather.
Okay, and your stepfather, was he the type of person that brought you up, would you say? Did he do
He was
too?
there.
Uh-huh.
He was there.
Did you take him more as a father?
Yeah, it's funny enough. I didn't call him dad. I called him by his name.
Okay. Back in
Interesting,
the
no?
day, that was quite disrespectful a little bit, wasn't it?
But now I know why. But I didn't realise.
Why do you say that? It's because now you know what it should have been.
I don't know what we just called him by his name. I just called him by his name.
Uh-huh.
I never called him dad. But
How about
he
the
was
other
my-
brothers and sisters?
my,
Did they used to call him
I
dad?
can't remember, but he was my father figure.
Right.
But yeah, he wasn't my actual father.
And your father, you met him?
I met him years later.
And what did you think when you first met him?
Yeah,
Did
it
you
was
ask
alright.
him questions?
No, I was 15
Wow.
when I first met him, so I just didn't get into it too deeply with him.
Okay, you couldn't be bothered.
Just like spent time with him.
Uh-huh.
He came to the UK, spent time with him.
So what does it feel when you see, because I come from the same ship as well, when you see that they just pop up, they disappear, they pop up, they disappear. How does that make you feel?
Didn't feel anything. I really didn't feel anything. You know, like,
You don't look at some of your friends and say to your friends, you know what?
it was what it was.
Right.
You know, we just grew up that way. Mum's was always private.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like now I know like things like my mum's age and all that. Back in the day, I didn't know what my mum's age. Didn't know a lot about my mother, even
Yes.
though she was my mother and I
Yeah.
love my mother. You didn't even say I love you to my mother back in the day.
Wow.
You know what I mean? It was just like she brought us up. We were not, we would get a smack.
Was that because of the strictness that she...
I don't know. I think it was maybe because maybe the way they were brought up in the Caribbean.
Wow. Go on, give us your natives. Where are you from?
Barbados.
Barbados!
Beijing.
Hey boy, don't play.
Right in the bush.
Go on, can you
Corey-
talk it?
Corey
Can
Spring.
you do the accent?
Wait, man, what's going on?
Anyway, so go.
Make crosses, do
Go
wrong
crosses. All right, so let's talk about now going into the music then. So mum gave you the influence of music, feeling records, blah, blah, blah. And that really got you into, but obviously it stepped up a little bit further than that because you wanted to make a career out of it. How did that come about?
Well, I wasn't trying to make a career out of it. I was just my mum used to have her radiogram, and she'd have parties every year for her birthday, and I'd sit by the radiogram and just play records. And then what I used to go out to a place called the Cascade Centre, and that was my first real...
That's in Islington, yeah?
That's in Islington, not far from Caledonian Road. And that was my first real life experience. This was in 74. It was my first real life experience with a sound system, a real sound system, where it had speaker boxes, turntable and all that.
Right.
That's the first time I seen it in real life. And
That
I'd go
really
there.
works.
I'd go there, the man's there would be like, yo, gosh up for me now. You know what I mean? As I grow up now, I realise some of them was just only 2-3 years old. But they were so much bigger at that time. You know what I mean?
Yeah. But you had respect for them.
But so as it get to the years now, go past school, left school. Even at school, it was like I had a record that I take to school. There was an annex kind of room, and they had a record player in there. So I remember bringing a record to school. I brought "Baby My Love" by Phil Calendar. I remember bringing that record to school
Wow.
and playing it. I probably brought other records as well.
Yeah.
But I remember
was your main
That
baby.
was the one.
Yeah.
That was the first record I ever brought to school. So yeah, I remember bringing that to school.
So bringing that to school, and then it stepped up a little bit because you decided you want to now start your very own sound system after being in parties, am I right, with mum, doing the little private parties, am I right? Am I on the right track?
Yeah, what happened was I would I'd have my own little thing in my bedroom. It would just be me in my bedroom, just play my music. I bought my own little turntable, and then there's a place just up the road called Crumbles Castle, which is literally down the road from the Cascade Centre.
Right.
So we'd go in there. I actually helped build it as well. We used to carry some of the bricks and help
So
build.
it should really have a Victor Anderson on there. The Victor Anderson Centre.
So anyway, so some of the local boys around, this time I was only about 15. This is around like 77. And it wasn't like I decided. I just walked past this wood factory and I saw this, I saw these bits of wood, and I just remembered the Keskadi man there, because I saw them build boxes.
Yeah.
Speaker boxes for their sound system, which was called Tradition Sound.
Yeah.
So when I saw the wood factory, I was like, yeah. So I called up a couple of my boys, knock on their door.
Yes.
We never had no.
No phone there. I was gonna say, where's he going? We called him up.
There was one friend, Howard. I always remember knocking on his door, and his mum would be like, I'd be like, is Howard there? Howard don't live here. Him only sleep here. I always remember that. And anyway, Howard and a couple other boys would go and nick the wood from the wood factory. It was really leftover wood.
Yes.
And we'd build our own boxes at Crumbles Castle.
Mad.
Build our speakers.
So you built your speakers.
But I didn't realise I was the leader.
Yes.
I was just leading the way.
Yes.
You know what I mean? But I was just leading the way, doing my thing, building speaker boxes.
Were you the one out the little crew that was the more upfront one, where the others were more laid back?
I was the one that had all the records. So, because by then I started going record shop.
And you had a sound system. Your very first sound. What was it called?
Yeah. Invader.
Why did you call it that?
Because I don't know. It was like a thing. Like everybody had a name. So my name was Papa Vader.
Right.
So they would call me Papa Vader. So when I had the sound now, I would call it Invader. But the sound Invader, I realised, came from another sound called Invader, from back in the day. But they didn't have the sound no more. So for some reason, I felt attached to that name. And that's
you go and ask them if you could use their name again, or it didn't mean anything?
No, I just felt attached to the name. I don't even know why I started using that name, but that was the name that I started using. And for some reason, I was attached to that name. I can't remember the reason why.
Well, you were attached to that name because you carried on as well, and you did little private parties here and there.
Yeah.
Tell us more about that.
Discovered this little place in Caledonian Road. So it was all in the same little area. Caledonian Road. There's a little place called Des Amis. And I just went in there and I said, do you fancy, is it okay to play some music in here? And he goes, yeah. And I just made up my own little flyers. I used to draw it with this stencil and all that, and get it photocopied and get them photocopied and give them out, post them in people's door, kind of that way. And created a little buzz, and Dizamiz was busy.
Well, you did a party.
That was my little promotion. I'm not a promoter, but
you did a party, and you were quite astonished at the amount of the outcome that family and friends come to support you.
Yeah, people came out, family members came out. Yeah, it was good. It was fun.
Mad. But then along the way, you decided that I want to be a little bit serious now. Tell us how that came about, by dropping people and coming out with this name, Victor Anderson. Where does Victor Anderson come from? Because from Vader to Victor Anderson, that's a little bit of a change.
I've kept where it comes from a bit of a secret.
Okay.
Right?
Okay.
But it's
and you're not going to expose it now.
It's something that my mother gave to me, but that's all I'm going to say.
That's private.
So, but that came further down the line. That came way down the line.
Right.
So I used to go to this record shop in Islington called Street Sounds. They were in Cross Street.
Street Sounds.
And it's owned by a man called Pat Coogan. So I used to buy records in there. Like I used to buy records everywhere. I used to go Groove Records. There was another record shop in Chapel Market called Phillips Cut Price Records. The guy that owned that was called Michael, I think his name was. You know, and I'd go different places. I'd go to there's another shop in Clapham, not Clapham in South London.
Clapton.
Lower Clapton, that's
Clapton.
it.
Mhm.
That record shop there, I used to go there. There was a record
So
shop
weren't
in...
Regals?
Was it Regal? Might have been Regal. And Trevor Sachs used to work in
Yeah,
there.
Regals.
And then there was a record shop on Caledonia Road
Okay.
called Vital. Now, there was a record shop on Vital, and there was another shop owned by Errol Dunkley.
Okay, the singer.
I forgot the singer, Errol Dunkley. He
Yeah.
used to have a shop on Caledonia Road as well. So I used to buy records from him, records from Vital, Groove, and kind of accumulated some records.
Well, you did accumulate records because on top of that, your library is quite big, isn't it?
I mean, at one point, I had about 30,000 records.
Mad.
So,
Do you think they're worth the value that they started off? Do you think now, if you decided, right, I'm selling all my records, do you think that it's worth the money you spent on it right now? And much
well,
more?
I'm never going to get... Well, actually, thinking about it, some records are worth a lot of money. Old reggae records, for example, you know, especially 7-inch singles and some LPs are worth a credible amount of money. You know, records from the 60s and 70s and some early reggae records, some 7-inch and some 12-inch. But then after that, they're not worth that much, you know. Yeah.
But you would not sort of apart with them. If I come to you now and I said, one price, I'll tell you what, I'll give you £5,000 for the whole lot.
No, that's not cutting it. If I wanted to sell a particular record that I actually loved, then it has to be over the odds.
Oh, of
Otherwise,
course.
I'm not selling it.
Of course, of
But
course.
but I do love playing records.
Right.
You know, now more than ever, I put the turntable out and I'm like, it's come back to me loving
the feel of the record.
playing a record again. Yeah.
So being in a little wine bars and a little friends gatherings and stuff, you decided, I really want to take this to another level, because the other level from that, you became, can I say, or am I jumping too far to say that someone presented you with radio?
Yeah, well, this is what I'm talking about when I went into that record shop in Cross Street.
Yes.
He had a radio station upstairs, and when he asked me if I wanted to do radio, because I was like one of his best customers, because I used to go in there every week. So I said, yeah. So that radio station was called Contrast Radio, and there were some notable figures that passed through there.
Come on, drop some names.
Jazzy B,
Yes.
Stamina. He was called. He was Sir Biggs' son.
Yes.
There was
Fuzzy?
No, that was after.
Okay.
This is before. To
LWR.
This is around about 81.
Yeah.
81, 82.
Yeah, my bad, sorry.
So I started doing radio on there for a couple of years. And
Any more name drops on there?
Kid Bachelor.
Mm-hmm.
Who else? There was another guy called Gordon Bennett. There were some names I'm trying to remember.
But it didn't stop there, because after first, before we go a little bit further, you also, your very first experience of talking on radio, because you got an amazing talking voice. Where did you get your influences for speaking on the radio?
It was just about being yourself. See, like how I'm speaking with you now.
Mm-hmm.
So I'd go on the radio and I would just talk my first thing was just introducing the record.
Yeah.
You know, I didn't really build my personality
Presentation.
until my presentation level up until I moved on to LWR. Radio.
LWR.
Yeah.
LWR,
Yeah.
you are it, you too. The best in London town. See, even I remember that.
So that was about 83, 84 I went on there. So when I got on there, Tim Westwood had just left the station. He was on there a little bit, I think, when I was on there. He used to do an afternoon broadcast 4 till 6 or something like that.
But there was loads on there. When it was Jigs was on there.
Jigs was on
You
there.
had Fuzzy on
Fuzzy
there.
D,
Daddy
Daddy
Ernie,
DJ
and of
Lane,
course the masterman as well, which was of course Mr. Zach, the pioneer.
Zach. Derek Boland was on there. There's many names on
Did you
there.
find a difference between the two stations? Because I'm upgrading, you're upgrading all the time. How did that feel?
Yeah, it was another
transition.
level because I remember in those days we used to get letters from fans, actual letters, and I had hundreds of letters.
Mad.
You know what I mean? It wasn't like, it was letters. You know,
Mad.
people from women's prisons would write in.
Wow.
Yeah,
Wow.
things like that.
Wow. That
Yeah,
must have
so-
made you feel good, right?
So yeah, it was just we just took it in our stride.
Wow.
We just took it in our stride, you know. I mean, sometimes like some people, one week we get 5 letters, some week we get 10 letters, but yeah, we'd actually get physical letters. People would take time, write, and put it in the post, and we'd receive
Wow.
it. Yeah,
Well, I remember back in the day we used to get the pages. Do you remember the pages?
yeah, the pages. Yeah, that came. Yeah, I think that came while I was on LWR as well.
Yeah, that was the paging time. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, that came
And
a
all you
little
hear
bit
was,
later.
but you remember the first time you get a pager? I mean, I'll never forget. And you're very waiting. So you're looking at this little mother right here. They're saying, bleep, you basket. Bleep, bleep. And you couldn't. And it was such a buzz to have a message on there. Do you remember?
Yeah, it was. We get messages because I remember because I used to do a show with Jigs
Yes.
on LWR, and I remember he'd pull his pager out and we'd read out the pager line,
Yes.
and people would get
Page!
and people
Page!
would ring from their
Yeah!
old school phone, no
Yeah!
mobile,
Yeah!
from their phone in their house, and dial it because people would listen to the radio
listen to
because
it,
there
yeah.
was no recorded radio.
No. Well, LWR was a big entity back in the day.
I mean,
it
yeah,
was
we
definitely
used
a big entity.
I think we broadcast.
It was LWR. Sorry to cut you. It was LWR, more on the bigger level.
So there was like Solar Radio, Horizon
Solar,
Radio.
Horizon. Yes.
You know, Kiss wasn't around then.
No.
There was no Kiss at that time.
No.
But Kiss did come around soon enough because I even got invited to go on Kiss, but I opted to stay with LWR because I wanted to be loyal with who I was with.
What do you think radio now? What do you think about radio right now?
Radio now is cool, but it's not like how it was
No.
in the 80s and even the early 90s. Because,
It's not as fun as it used to be. is
because now there's so many ways to listen to music now, where back in the day you had 1 or 2 ways, maybe just one way, and that was the
That was the
radio.
FM.
And that was the radio. That was it. You just had the radio.
So what do you feel like?
Oh,
go on.
the other way was when DJs recorded it and it was on tape. And
Yeah.
then
yeah,
people-
oh yes.
And then people would get hold of the tapes,
yes.
or people would record our radio show.
Well, that's where your technical side come in, because I do believe you were a craft of fixing. When we had that dreaded tape and it was all twisted up and stuff, you were one of the pioneers that could stick that stuff together. Tell us how you learned that.
It was like I'd get the tape and I'd see like the tape was chewed up or broken, and I saw there were screws, little screws. So I'd take it open, gently take the piece of tape out, and I would get a sellotape and carefully cut it into a thin strip so that
Long, you've got to have a good hand for that.
so it'd be enough to stick on the tape, and I'll put it back in, carefully screw it together, and that's how I'd repair my tapes. So I used to work. So this is coming up to like the late 80s now, and I was working at a shop called Footprints
I
Records
know Footprints Records.
in Finsbury Park, and I literally had customers bringing their tapes for me to repair for them. So I'd charge them like £5 to
Wow,
repair their tapes.
wow, wow.
Yeah.
And the list was long, wasn't it?
Yeah, there was quite a few people. Yeah, my tape's broken. Yeah, I mean, so word got around that I'd fix people's tapes. Yeah.
So Victor Anderson's born now. Obviously, you've said the reason why behind the name is obviously a secret.
No,
to
the
most.
reason why I changed from Victor Vader or Papa Vader to Victor Anderson was because when I was with LWR Radio,
Yeah,
we were trying to get a license to go legal.
right.
So we had to switch off the radio.
For about 6 months to a year, wasn't
So I can't remember the time period, but what happened was I went on to Laser Radio,
it? That was with Louis.
and then
Mr. Oasis.
and then that's when I changed my name from Victor Vader to Victor Anderson. So that's where the Victor Anderson started,
Mad.
and I think that was that still in the 80s? Might still be in the 80s, the late 80s.
Well, you obviously did, because you carried on, and then I do believe there was a situation where you started getting some proper club nights, didn't you?
Yeah, that was with LWR.
Yes.
Trends nightclub.
Trends nightclub.
Yeah.
Glenn, R.I.P. man.
Yeah, yeah.
I loved Glenn. Glenn was such a nice guy, man.
Yeah, he was.
He was such a nice guy. And I do believe that you knew more about that situation of him dropping someone home or something.
Yeah, I was there that night.
Crazy.
I saw him the whole night.
Crazy.
And he dropped some people home, and then
And it just
we
went
heard that there was an accident,
Car crash.
and he didn't make it.
Glenn, man.
Yeah, so that was sad.
I had all the time in the world for Glenn. So you done Trends. Trends had 3 floors.
Yeah,
So,
3
boy,
floors,
that do you know, it was All Nations, it was Trends, it was Dougie's, and on a Sunday it was, and I'm not talking the night moves, I'm talking more of back in the days was Mingles. All in the same area.
Yeah.
And then it was Night Moves, then it was Oasis. The list goes on. And one man
Oasis,
that was involved in a lot of that, believe it or not, ladies and gentlemen, Lewis Johnson.
Yeah.
Lewis Johnson.
Big
And he
up
had a
the
place
lager.
called La Prison
That's right.
as well, which I did my first lookalike show there with Rudy Liquid. I remember.
Yeah.
And the girl that actually won it, she's a big entity right now as a Missy lookalike going up and down the country.
Nice.
That we made Jenny White, her name is.
Right.
You can ask her. We sent her to America and everything.
Oh no.
Louis will tell you. But tell us. So the club scene now. You got your name in that door big time, didn't you?
I wasn't even trying to do anything. I was just part of the radio.
I think it's because it's more of your lovable person.
I was part of the movement
Yeah.
of radio. I was like on LWR, and then moving on to Laser while we were waiting for a legal license, and that's when I met Lewis, and he had his clubs in Dalston, and there was Oasis, and I DJ'd there a lot with the radio stations. I even had a birthday party in Oasis nightclub.
Mad.
That was a big success.
Mad.
You know, like Nigel B was there, WJ Goodgroove was there. There were so many names that was there. I think Wayne Marshall was there. There was Maxine.
You meant to feel this way.
You know, The Last Time, all them
remember
sort of
that.
songs.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah.
Orlando. I knew
So you're
Orlando.
talking more on Sultan, of course, Orlando Gittins and
Yeah,
stuff, and then
Orlando.
back in those days there.
Because I met him when he just started the label,
Sultan.
with Soul Town Records.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, he came into Footprints, you know, and he's obviously he's
killing
what
it
he's
right
doing
now.
now. Right
Yeah,
now.
yeah,
He's doing
absolutely.
really good.
It's good. But tell us then, because of course on time going by, you haven't given up your radio career, but you've also worked along the things. You've worked with some major names. You're also a part of compilations. Tell us how all that comes about, because it gets deep with you. It gets deep with some projects that are out there right now. You were a part of it.
I think what happened was with these. I used to work in Footprints Records, and people used to come in there and buy tracks, and then these compilations came out midnight, and there was another one. There was midnight, and there was another one.
Was that on the Rare Groove tip?
Yeah, the old soul, you know. that they
Volume
call
up
it.
to 100, is it?
Yeah, but before that, there was these midnight compilations.
Yeah.
And then got to the point where after the vinyl, the CD started coming in.
Yes.
So I was approached by a guy who's well known in the industry, but this was after he'd already done 1 to 10 already.
Yeah.
He'd already done 1 to 10, and then the volumes went up to I think either 80 or 100.
It's 100, isn't it?
Yeah, so
It's
I
100.
did from 20 to 100.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because the person who did the compilation said, "Oh, you went back to the same person. You didn't have any more music."
Yeah.
I said, "Well, I've got music for days." So he'd come to my house with his DAT machine,
DAT machine, you know?
DAT machine,
Remember
yeah.
the DAT machine?
and we'd sit there. I'd sit there for hours recording. You know, we'd pick out tracks and we'd record tracks and put out these Rare Groove compilations, volumes 10. So 1 to 10 was already done, so I didn't do those. But then I said to him, you know, we can't try to fit as many tracks in. We have to leave the tracks in its original form. If you get less tracks in, that's the way you got to do it. So whether it was,
So you helped compile it.
yeah, all those tracks came from my record collection.
Did you make any good money off it?
Yeah, I got paid a chunk of money.
You get looked
It wasn't
after.
like a the sales. It wasn't like, sales figures from. I just got paid a chunk of money, a one-off sum, to put them together. So
Wow.
each time I did a bunch of compilations, then I get a chunk of money.
But it wasn't just that, was it? Because also some big artists out there that are big out there right now, you were part of their music career even on a DJ front. Tell us more.
I don't know, I'm just trying to remember. I remember there was a guy, I used to work in a shop called Beat Fruit Records.
Yes.
And there was a guy that came in there, and he showed me some tracks that he'd recorded. And there was one track called Life With You. His name is Courtney Buchanan. I don't know if you know that song. I wanna share my life with you.
Yes.
I wanna do all. He used to come into the shop, and I say, yeah, you should put it out. And then he met the guy that ran. Trying to remember the name of the record label now, Conscious Records.
Mm-hmm.
And he put out a lot. He was ahead of his time. He could be probably one of the first kind of neo soul artists, other than Omar.
Yeah.
That come out of the UK. But
We're
unfortunately,
talking about that. Sadly, you've just gone on to, the greats that sadly passed, and we had the loss the other day of Noel McCoy, R.I.P. Noel.
Sad
That
loss.
was so sad, and it's just surprised now you can be there 1 minute and you're just gone like that. What did that do? Because I know Noel, you knew Noel, you interviewed Noel, you spoke to Noel on quite a number of occasions and situations.
Whenever I spoke with Noel, it was like an hour conversation.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
He what I know it's about Noel McCoy. He
was a
absolutely
person.
loved singing. It was like, some people like singing. He loved singing. He couldn't wait to hold the mic and get on the stage and sing. Like a couple of times I've worked with him, you can tell he just loved it. You couldn't drag that mic away from him if you tried.
Yeah, he loved his craft.
Yeah.
But on top of that, you've also had again R.I.P. to Noel and condolences to all the family and that. But on top of that, you also had a young lady who you were nurturing as a DJ as well, who's made it quite big up there at the moment as well. Tell us more about that.
So I met this lady in a club in the West End. So these little West End clubs. What's these little West End clubs? There's certain West End clubs.
These West clubs.
There was
Ronnie Scott.
Not Ronnie Scott. There was other ones. Anyway, I met this lady. She gave me a tape. She gave me a CD, and it had one of her songs on it. Her name is Rebecca Scales. And
Who she's a member of who?
She's got some links with My Soul, and so got to the point now, got to know her, became friends, and then I sort of like started giving her DJ lessons, and now she's doing really well. She's DJing, she's singing, she's flying, she's made songs with Yorks, Masters at Work, various people.
Crazy.
Yeah, she's doing good.
So when you bring your craft to somebody else, do you expect something from it, or do you feel that some people are very sort of selfish, greed, that they don't want to give nothing back?
It was just something I was doing. I was just giving my time freely, and it was just something I was.
I've noticed something
to
about
do.
you as well. You're a very humble and very calm person. What upsets you?
When my son takes
You're very laid back.
When my son takes the mic.
You see, we're going to get... Did you see a different side of Victor? I mean, talking about your son, you've got a little teenager. Obviously through your music career, because I know I got done really badly, my music career, that my son's mum was trying to put my son on me on the days that she knew that I would be doing my business, working, DJing. So did you ever get that problem? I mean, because obviously you've got a child now. Was it a planned situation or?
No, not planned. So basically, I got a nice family unit, and we all pull together. So if I need to go and DJ, I can call on one of my family members, and they would look after him while I go and do my gigs or gigs abroad even. So,
Wow.
yeah.
And he's growing up like a nice little gentleman now. He's just turned 13.
He's doing good. He loves football.
Mad.
He can't get enough of it. He's just football crazy.
And is he one of the boys at the school that you don't need to have issues over, or is he good schooling?
Yeah,
everything?
no issues. I mean, the odd little thing, like he didn't finish his homework. Nothing major, like beating up somebody or anything like that.
So what's his if he's a naughty boy, what's his punishment you would give him?
Take away his computer stuff. he doesn't like that. One time I took it away for a whole month.
Wow.
And eventually he was on his best behaviour.
How did you feel when you knew you had a child? Were you gutted in the
I
beginning?
was at the hospital at the birth.
Wow. So you've been there through the whole...
Yeah. I watched him being born, held him in my arms, gave him his name.
Mad.
That's my boy.
That's good, man. You're a very, very devoted father, and I know that because I've seen it. Now, going back onto your career, so radio really did it. You did the nightclubs as well, and then from the nightclubs, time just grew of you developing this Victor Anderson name, because you've also interviewed quite a lot of people as well. But do some name little drops of the biggest influence of interviews that you've done.
Donny. Steve Arrington.
Don't go there, Victor. Let's go with the Roy Ayers and all that sort of stuff. Don't try and give it the little butter up. Oh, I've only done a couple. Only Eric Benet. Yeah, go on. Yeah, go on.
That's a few.
You've done quite a lot, V.
Just a few. Bobby Bird and Vicky Anderson.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah. They were my very first interviews.
Mad.
My very, very first, yeah.
Mad.
Yeah, that's mad, isn't it?
And you've been involved in quite a lot of club nights as well, haven't you? And it's not of you putting it together, but you've been involved. How do you manage? Is it just connection? Is it just the likability?
I would just get calls from people. I don't normally approach promoters.
Right.
I would get approached. Like when I did We Love Soul, for example. They approached me and I'd do it. But before We Love Soul came about, it used to be Houseology, because I used to work on House FM. I was doing the...
See, because that's another thing. You were doing the breakfast show, but on top of that, that's the type of DJ you are. You're not just a one-rounder DJ. Everyone needs to know about Victor Anderson.
The thing is, even from the beginning, it wasn't like reggae. I just like music.
Music.
What I found, what I was doing when I sort of broke into a different scene, I used to love reggae music, and then I started buying soul music in the late 70s, and then I found myself going to these other clubs like Crackers,
remember Crackers,
100 Club and other soul clubs, and I'd meet another set of people again. So I had my reggae people, my friends that like reggae, my friends that like soul, and in the late 80s there was another set of friends that were into house music. So I'd meet all these other set of people. So I got to know so many different types of people from different musical backgrounds, musical cultures.
Well, you are, because your genre of music taste is crazy, because you do stuff with Antonio Pascal. You're doing that. You're going to be doing New Year's. You're going to be doing the Christmas party on the 11th December at Trent Park.
Yeah, this is the thing, and Solly Brown was asking me this the other day. He asked me what style of music I like, and he was saying I was being a cop-out, but I wasn't being a cop-out. I do actually love all styles of music equally. Yeah. You put me in a house room, and I can go in there.
Kill it.
I go in there with it.
Yeah.
Put me in a reggae room, I'll go in there with it.
But you're also, on top of that, you're also going to be at the... we've got a venue for you on New Year's Day as well, the Arcadia Lounge, which is up there in Bexley Heath. Again, it's a prestige project promotion, and Injection Radio is involved, and you are going to be representing us down there as well.
Yeah.
So, and on top of that, you've done a lot as well with loads of DJs. Can I say people like Lloyd Life? Can I say people like Fitzroy the Buzzboy?
Yep.
Can I say Steve Sutherland?
Yeah.
R.I.P. We must say R.I.P. Fat Freddie M. You've done a lot in this game. But what I do need to ask you, and it's very important, I have three questions I ask in this game. Which is the goodness about the industry to you?
The goodness about it, I loved meeting the different people. It was one of the things that brought out my personality a bit more.
Yes.
When I started DJing to a live crowd, like proper live crowd. Like when I started doing trends, for example, you know, that brought my personality out, meeting different other people.
Well, you know, another thing, before I go back into, I'm going to wheel back a little bit, because before we come over to your goods, your bads and your ugly, there was also a situation I always wanted to ask you. Why didn't you never really pursue on the legal stations, as such as, I know LWR tried to get the license, blah blah, but there was also the Choice FM. You never really tried to go and
I did
get on there.
I felt that I was given the runaround.
Tell us more.
So I would write in, send tapes, because then it was tapes.
Yeah. I know it.
And I mean, there was one point I even went to Choice FM down there. Like Jigs was one of my best friends at the time of going down there, and I'd go down there when he was on the radio. And but for some reason they didn't
want you.
No, I don't know if they didn't want me.
They didn't want you, Victor.
They didn't take me on. They didn't. I don't know what happened. I don't know if I felt like I was given the runaround a bit, but I don't know. I don't really know what happened.
But you did do some stuff on WNK though, didn't you?
Yes, I did.
Tell us more about that.
I did. Well, what I did, I was more in the background, and I would like, for example, they had a chart show.
Yeah.
And I think it was Calvin Francis that used to compile it. That was before he was on Choice FM. Yeah. So he was on WNK. So I used to go around to all the record shops and collect all the sales figures, and then present the figures to WNK for their chart show. So yeah,
mad. See, that's what I'm saying. And then of course, you just said a statement there with you being brought round and round the Marbury Bush on a situation. Wouldn't you prefer it someone just says, sorry, you're not what we want, but move on?
I just went along. I just moved on to the next thing.
And the next thing you did move on to. So I need to ask you again, what the goodness of meeting people, as you were saying, is really the main part of it. But what's the bad bits about the industry?
The only bad bits I can think of is there's some cliquey bits where they only want those set of people to be part of a certain thing.
Does that annoy you?
Doesn't bother me.
But it must bother you because you're bringing it up within the statement.
Because I would just go and do my own thing. You know, it's like some DJs rely on being called to be on a lineup.
Yeah.
I never did. I had my own little residencies going.
You had something to fall back on.
I always had something. I was, like I had this club in the West End. That was my little residency. I was going for like 5 years.
That's good.
Had a little place in Crouch End, Bar Rocker. That was going for years at a time, 5 years. And another place I had in Finchley Central. That was going for years. Queues going down. I had my own little thing going. So I wasn't really, if I wasn't included.
What do you say about when you see certain people that you grew up with and you were on the same level as you possibly thought you were, and they've just passed you just like that? Like, of course, I'm sure LWR as well. I'm not sure. I don't know, but wasn't Trevor Nelson on there? Or was it just Kiss he was on?
He was on Kiss.
He was on the Pirate Kiss in the beginning, wasn't he?
Yeah, he was on Kiss, yeah.
Okay. So when you see all these DJs as such, like even the Jazzy B being an artist on Soul to Soul, being the founder of the Funky Dread, etc., and growing up to, mad levels, how does that make you feel when you were down the same level as these guys and girls?
Yeah, I mean, I guess on a level I should be maybe financially as successful as them, but the way I see it is I congratulate them. I still went ahead, did my own little events, and I think my name probably was buzzing around because I was doing so many little events. I was posting them on social media. Yeah. There was MySpace, and then there was
Facebook. MySpace.
That's what it was. It was MySpace, and then I think it was 2008, 2009. Facebook came along, and where I used to post all my stuff on MySpace, I was DJing to these youngsters like, you know, these places I used to do, Bar Rocker in Muswell Hill, not Bar Rocker. There's another place in Muswell Hill, and these places like rammed every week. These places. I used to do another place in Golders Green called Club Extreme.
Are these with the Victor Anderson brand on them?
This year, yeah. So basically, I would DJ. I would send out text messages.
Yeah.
And I would post them on
Social media.
on MySpace.
MySpace back at the time, yeah, I remember
At the time.
MySpace flipping. Yeah.
And I sort of like built up a little following, and then Tony from We Love Soul, but before it wasn't We Love Soul at the time, it was like Houseology. So I think he contacted me and asked me to come and do something with him. So I did a lot of gigs with him.
Well, you know what? You're talking about some great names and some great promoters, but we got to say another RIP to somebody who's just fallen over as well.
Yeah, Des Parks.
Des Parks.
That was my guy. That he inspired me a little bit as well.
Tell us
a
more.
lot, actually. He even gave me records. There was one particular record he gave me that was, you know, very, very sought after, but very hard to get at the time. You know, a record by Sweet Mixture. He gave me that record in the early 80s when you couldn't get your hands on it. You know, still got the record today. And I even helped him out with a couple of tracks from the Rare compilations.
Yeah.
Because they didn't have all the master tapes, and his copy was scratched, and he come to me and I gave him the records to use to put on the.
Did you used to be on radio with Des as well?
Yeah, he was on Laser Radio, I think it was.
With Louis.
And I remember he had this Scottish girl on there. I forgot her name, but she was really good. I think he gave her tracks to play, so people would be like, "Oh, who's this Scottish girl playing these tracks?" You know. But she was associated with Des Parks.
Definitely was. Now, with the good, you have the bad, and there's one called the ugly. Does the bad go with the ugly, or is there an ugly?
I haven't really had any ugly moments, really. Ugly moment in my life, maybe.
Yeah, what's the ugliest moment in your life?
I was a child, and my finger got squashed in the door. Yeah.
Oh my God!
Right down to the bone. And
Amazing.
the bone was sticking out my finger.
Amazing.
I was at school,
Amazing.
yeah.
I have a part of the show now where I'll put you on the spot. It's called Name Me 5 of Your Biggest DJs.
See, that's hard. It's hard because I don't have favourites. I can just name some people.
If that's what tickles your fancy.
But there's no order or anything.
That's entirely up to you. If you want to back yourself up in any which way you can.
There's no order.
Okay, so
I like a vibe. I like vibe.
Okay.
I like a vibe. Like if I go to, like for example, it's Father Chalky's birthday, and he's got everyone plays vinyl there, and I like his vibe with his DJs.
Okay.
So like I would name him.
So one. What,
so there would be like Jigs.
2.
I don't know. Masters at Work. I might as well name them both collectively.
3.
Oh God, there's so many.
2 more,
there's
bro.
so many. It's hard to just name them because who else did I like? I tell you who I used to like when I used to work on Contrast Radio. Jazzy B used to play these like really obscure boogie tracks.
Okay.
And I used to think, I know those, but no one else knew about them.
Yeah.
So he was one that I'd be like, oh, okay, he's playing that. Oh, no one
So
else
you like
plays.
Jazzy's music, yeah?
Yeah. At the time, when I was on Contrast Radio, he used to play these lovely little boogie tracks. I remember he used to play things like Taurus Hooked on You, and things like Bernice Fraser, Will You Be the One? I don't know if people that know. When I mention those type of tracks,
People know. All the connoisseurs.
you know.
Okay,
what I mean? So,
you got one more.
Who else? There's a DJ. Some of the people that I inspire to not really DJs. I might as well put Des Parks in there.
Oh yeah, R.I.P.
Des Parks in there.
Okay, there's your 5. Now it gets even harder. I want 5 hyper MCs.
See, that's hard because I don't know. But I have to think. It's difficult. MCs. See, MCs is another thing. So it's like I went to an event called, I can't remember the name of the event, but it was a drum and bass event.
Okay.
And it was Valve Sound. Have you heard of Valve Sound? It's owned by Dillinger and Slip. Is it Slip? Dillinger and I forgot the name.
I don't know.
The person. They got a record label called V Recordings, and I went to see them down at Coronet in Elephant Castle. And they had every MC was on that stage.
Crazy.
But
CKP, Creed.
Skibbity.
Was Creed there? CKP?
No, this
Was this more-
this is drum and bass.
Oh,
and
okay,
jungle.
okay.
Who else is there? Like some of the MCs I used to listen to when I was
Moose and all stuff like that, right?
like
Navigator.
like Saxon Sound, the MCs on.
Oh,
Saxon.
you're talking them type of MCs. Okay.
I mean, it could be any MC.
Okay, I got
MC,
you.
innit?
I got you.
You know what I mean? So like Saxon Sound, I used to listen to that Spitting Out Fire album with all them MCs on there.
So come on, give us your MCs. I want your MCs.
Philip Levy.
Right. So you're gonna go through all the Saxon.
Well, I mean, there
You've
were
got
like
5 MCs.
so I've named 2. So I've named Philip Levi.
Yeah. You got 3 left.
Oh my God, there's so many. There's MCs that chatted on soul records like Barry White. So that's
3. Got 2 more.
Who else was there? I'm trying to remember. There's so many. How can you just ask me to name?
Listen, this is how I do my interviews. It's the good, the bad, and the ugly.
Yeah, it's hard to.
You must add this to the ugly.
It's not because I don't really think about it.
Go on, you got 2 more. You got 2 more.
If I was to book an MC, who would I book? See, this is it. MCs now. Who else is there? There's I'm trying to think of MCs that I really like. If I was to book an MC, who would I book?
Oh, I got him where I want him now, ladies and gentlemen.
It's hard to just come out with MCs' names, you know, because there's too many.
Okay, too many could still be
How many did I
some.
name?
You've done 3. You got 2 more.
My God, MCs. So there's who's a good MC that I would like name right now?
Wow.
See what I mean? Like,
So is that a pause now? You
That-
you can only say 3 MCs.
there's more, but I
So
can't-
you can't win and you can't lose, because
Yeah.
if you don't mention them, that means that you don't think I'm good enough. But
No, there is so many.
If you do mention them all, you've missed out some. So what is the other 2, or do I say move on?
Let me see. There's more MCs. Let me see. MCs are hard to name.
Okay, we'll rest on that
Yeah,
one. We're
we'll
going to be
def-
all night.
Yeah, you will.
Right, so there you go. There's the MCs and that. Now, if somebody wanted to get in this game, Victor, what suggestion would you give them?
They have to love it. They have to love what they're doing. They have to love the music. They have to love, collecting music. Love the whole vibe about it. You have to love it. When you love it enough that you just want to go out and just purchase more music, and be a part of that music scene, you have to love it. It has to be in you. You can't just decide, I'm going to do that and go to school to learn it or what. You have to love it. When you love it and you want to do it, then you kind of become it.
Brilliant. Absolutely. It's a bit of advice there from Victor Anderson. Well, with that, I want to ask you one other thing. What's the best right now, because technology has changed so much? What would you say, vinyl or laptop?
They both have their... The laptop is convenient. Like if you're traveling a lot, it's convenient to have the laptop controller. It's good. Part of me wishes it always stayed with the vinyl, because then it would show you who really is in it.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
Because, there's people jumping on it, don't really have the foundation.
Yes.
You know what I mean? So part of me wishes that it was still the old way, but the young way has brought out some good new talent,
Yeah.
the new way, and with the new young talent, it's good in that way.
Definitely is good in that way. And you know what, Victor, last before I let you go, I'd like to say, tell everybody you're on Injection Radio as well, and you have your show on a Thursday. You do Drive Time.
Yeah.
And you love it. You love doing that, don't you?
Yeah, it's good. It's good. You know.
I'm not just making you say that. You gotta say how you feel.
No, because when I do Drive Time, I can just play various styles of music. I can interview people. You know, so it's like I can just like let it flow. Just like if I do like a specialist broadcasting, you got to put more time into it. But when you do a Drive Time, you can be more free, let it flow. You can interview people, play different genres of music.
Well, Victor Anderson, without doubt, I've got to say, this has been all about your life, and I'd like to present you with this little token, just to say thank you so much for giving me time to hear about your story.
The Industry Street presents to Victor Anderson for your contribution to the music industry. Thank you.
You're more
I
than
appreciate
welcome, sir.
it.
You're more than
Wow.
welcome.
It's my first award ever.
Are you being serious?
Yeah,
Wow.
it's brilliant.
Ladies and gentlemen, I don't just do this just to give people awards. I do this because this is where the foundation is. Watch out for next week. I've got another banger for you. The Industry Street is back.